When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires and use stable alerts to never miss a bet.
Hey everyone, it's Ashley Anderson with TwinSpires. Welcome to our Pegasus World Cup Day preview. We're going to be talking the big three races of the Pegasus World Cup Day card, and we have three expert handicappers about to join me: James Scully, Darin Zoccali, and Nick Tammaro. You may recognize all three from our expert pick videos at TwinSpires. Nick is also a track announcer, morning line maker, did the Breeders' Cup at Keeneland a couple years ago, and all three of them are going to talk the big three, like I mentioned, the Pegasus World Cup Filly Mare Turf. We've got the Turf and then the Pegasus World Cup in race 13. And also I wanted to mention it's 100 days out from Derby 150. If you haven't already seen on our social channels, we have a pretty cool reel by Abby Huffman, our expert content manager for social channels. She has 149 of the previous winners from the Derby, so check that out if you haven't seen it already. And we'll get started here soon, talking to James, Darin, and Nick about the first race, which will be our Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf. But before we get started, Darin, you have some promos at TwinSpires this week for our viewers to use at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah, we absolutely do, Ashley. We have that $10 money back, winter money back that we've had running since the start of January. And we are going to feature the Pegasus and the supporting stakes races on Saturday. In fact, no less than 6 of the races, the last 6 on the card, 8 through 13, will be included in the winter money back. So be sure to go to twinspires.com, go to the offers promotions page, be sure to be opted in, and that's an automated money back. So just within minutes of each race, if your horse does run second or third, you're going to get that money back up to $10, and then you can churn it, fire it right back in the next race. So twinspires.com, the winter money back, featuring the last 6 races, the 6 big stakes of the day at Gulfstream Park for Pegasus World Cup Day, Ashley.
Thank you, Darin. And again, we have James, Darin, and Nick all here to talk about the Pegasus World Cup Day card. And Darin, I'll start things off with you because you seem like a Filly and Mare Turf guy. So tell me, starting off, looking at this field, first of all, how do you see this pace shaking out with the field that we have here?
Well, I'm a turf guy. I'm not biased by if it's Colts or Phillies. But yeah, I think the pace it could potentially be honest enough on paper. But as I've learned with a lot of these turf races, you never really know. I mean, I've had races that looks like it's going to be completely, sluggish on the front end, and one horse just kind of grabs the racetrack and runs off. Then I have races where I think you're going to have a couple of horses knocking heads, and somebody's allowed to get alone on a loose lead. But I think with the presence of a long shot and Sister Luann, Queen Goddess is pretty quick early and wants to be forward. Ruby Nell certainly does have some speed, and Accomplished Girl as well, who was a sprinter that stretched out last time in the Swanee River. It does look like it's honest enough from a pace standpoint that I do think the closers should have an opportunity to rally into it.
And so what is your pick in this race?
I'm going to go to Didia. This is a mare that I've been a fan of quite a while from post position number 9. She's 6-1 on the morning line. She had a 4-race win streak going into the Modesty last spring over at Churchill Downs. Then was a very good second behind Market Segmentation in the New York. And you're going to get a little Modesty here where she just comes on the outside here and just grinds away through the stretch and is able to get up and defeat Sweet Danny Girl on New Year's Eve. This was the biggest win of her career to this point. She would come out of this strong effort, Kentucky Derby weekend, again to run second in the New York before she would go on to win the Rodeo Drive, where she beat a very nice filly in Anazette, who I think has a world of upside going into her 4-year-old season. And then obviously was beaten about 5 lengths, 4.5 in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, where she faced a far superior field that day. Getting back into this particular level at 6-1, Jose Ortiz aboard. A lot of positive angles here with Didia, who I think is poised for a very big season.
And James, I'll turn it to you because I think you might be in agreement here with Darin. What are your thoughts on Didia?
Yeah, I like Diddy's chances as well. And one real key for this 6-year-old mare is you can just look at her PPs. I mean, she's run really big fresh. She came back from a layoff in her U.S. debut in July of 2022, won pretty impressively an allowance race. Came back last spring at Fairgrounds, won a stake race by more than a length, and then came back from that like a similar freshening that she'll be coming back from on Saturday in the Rodeo Drive this fall, and got the 10 furlong distance in the 1.25 mile Rodeo Drive. But I really think Didia prefers a little bit less ground. She's 3 for 3 at Saturday's 1.16 mile distance, so I think it hits her right between the eyes. And she's just run so well fresh. I think she will get a fair, honest setup for a late kick and will be along in time. So I'm going to go with Didia, just like Darin.
All right, Nick, I think, I know you and I agree here, and we're looking at a closer. So, Darin did mention this is going to set up for a late presser, a closer type. So tell me about your pick in this race.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd make an argument that the most interesting horse on this entire card is Star Fortress, because we don't know exactly what she is. What we know is that she's run once in the United States. It was on a late autumn turf course at Churchill Downs that obviously, not everybody's going to handle a course that might have had a little bit more moisture in it. But she absolutely crushed in this race. I mean, you're watching the replay right now. Horses don't pull away from the rest of the field like this very often. And she did it on the wrong lead, too, for the most part of the stretch, which is kind of amazing. And this was her North American debut. We've not seen her since. To put it in perspective in terms of the condition of the turf that day, they went 1 mile and an eighth and 51 flat. So it was a slow turf course, right? It was carrying a lot of moisture, which is what you'd expect in November. Cherie DeVaux's given her off until now, obviously with an eye on this race. She skipped over any prep opportunities. We don't know how good she is. This is not like a horse that took a huge step forward with the addition of Lasix. She did not use Lasix last time. She just might be a great fit for American style racing. And maybe she was a filly who needed a course that had a little bit more give in it. Obviously, that's not going to be something that we get at Gulfstream. So there's a million questions. The biggest one is she the horse that we saw at Churchill? Because if she is, there's kind of a new sheriff in town in this division.
Yeah, I like this pick a lot too. I mean, seeing that 10-length win, I'm certainly she's the morning line favorite at 5-2, but I'm going to back her here off of that impressive win on Thanksgiving Day at Churchill Downs. Cherie DeVaux, I think, has a chance in this spot coming off this 2-month layoff. And she has that 101 brisnet speed figure. So looking at her late pace rating as well, a 101, and keeping Luis Saez aboard for this race here at Gulfstream. So I'm with you, Nick. I like Star Fortress in this race. And to recap real quick, it's divided. We've got Didia for James and Darin, and then we got Nick and I going with Star Fortress. So if you're looking for a better price, certainly I think Didia's got a shot. Looked very good at Churchill Downs as well. But yeah, Nick, I think we have a good horse to try to beat here from that 10-length win.
I agree. I can't wait to see it.
Let's move over to the Pegasus World Cup Turf, race 12 on the 13-race card, and this is for 4-year-olds and up to be raced at 1 1/8 mile. We have European shipper Warmheart, the 9-5 favorite. She's facing a full field of boys, and this is her final career start. She's done a lot of her best work at 1.5 miles, 1.25 mile. So, Nick, tell me, are you concerned at all with this cutback in distance here?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about this veteran filly who now has recently turned 4-year-old. I don't love that this is going to be her final start. They've let it be known right away. This was not one of the stronger runnings of the Hong Kong Vase. With that said, a weak Hong Kong Vase is going to generally be a heck of a lot better than a strong Pegasus Turf. One of the things I liked about this race, and I thought it was worth noting, was that from a race flow perspective, she ran extremely well. I mean, the horses that were anywhere near her when they were at the beginning of the video, basically, that we watched, they were decimated in this field. They were nowhere. So I thought she actually ran fine. That was a trip that maybe was a little bit farther than she wanted to go, maybe the 1.5 miles on this particular day, and that turf condition was not what she wanted. Now, this is 1.125 miles, so I mean, this is probably a little shorter than she wants to go. Ultimately, she's going to join the Coolmore Broodmare band, but her accomplishments are they exceed what everybody in here has ever done by such a tremendous margin. It's almost impossible to deny that. And she ran a winning race in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf 2 starts back now, went second to Inspiral. It feels like the warm heart that we've grown accustomed to seeing on a regular basis when it comes to her ability. It's just a lot better than all of these horses. Maybe save Integration, and we don't really know what Integration is just yet.
We got some footage here too right now of Warm Heart shipping into Gulfstream. And Darin, I'm going to take it over to you because Integration, as Nick just mentioned, we don't really know yet. He's going to make his 4th career start, unbeaten from 3 starts. So Darin, what are your thoughts on Integration in this field?
I've been gushing about Integration since his debut, so it would look rather foolish of me if I didn't pick him in this spot, because I thought at a very early point he looked like a horse that could be one of the better American turf runners that we've seen in quite some time. His Virginia Derby was scintillating. He beat a next out winner in program trading who would go out and win the Hollywood Derby. He beat Runaway Storm, who would come back and win a Graden Stake at Keeneland. So Virginia Derby was absolutely a key race. And then from there, he went into the Hill Prince. And I mean, this effort speaks for itself. Now, obviously, he's facing a much stronger field in this day than he did in the Hill Prince. But I mean, you can't win much more impressive than this. You talk about a horse that hits the front outside the 8th pole, pulls away, electric turn of foot, just stretching out, loving what he's doing. I think this horse has a world of talent. I don't know where the ceiling is going to be with him, and this is certainly his biggest test to date. But Integration for me, for what I think he might be able to do this year, and with the things that you mentioned about Warm Heart, the cutback to the 1.125 miles, shipping from California to Hong Kong, now back to Florida. I thought it was a very interesting selection for her final race. You would have thought maybe a race like the Dubai Shima Classic would have been more fitting for her profile at 1.5 miles than cutting back to 1.125 miles around the tight turns at Gulfstream Park for the last start of her career. So I thought that was a little bit interesting as well. But for those reasons, I'm going to take Integration. I hope we get somewhere around that 3-1 at post time, Ashley.
James, what do you think about Integration? Is that your pick as well?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Integration. I thought that Hill Prince was really a key race too, because that was a pretty a bulky 9-horse field, and he's stalking the pace in 3rd, and I think that kind of tactics will benefit him. He doesn't need to be this one-run deep closer. Obviously, closed from farther back in the Virginia Derby 2 starts back, so he's versatile enough that if the pace is slow, and there's not a lot of speed in the Pegasus World Cup turf. Definitely main event is going to show forward, and I think he's not going to be going at a real slow pace considering the field size, but it could be moderate. It's a good thing that Warm Heart is in the race, though, if you're a fan of Integration, because once you get past those 2, I think there's could be a pretty sizable gap in the betting. But I am on the Integration bandwagon. I loved his win over program trading 2 back, and I agree with the points Darin made. I think the sky's the limit for him as a 4-year-old, and we'll see if he continues to move forward for Shug McGahee on Saturday.
All right, so y'all have talked about the 9-5 morning line favorite. Nick, that's your pick. And then we have Integration at 3-1. But James, you mentioned main event, the lone true early pace setter in this field. I actually think has a shot here, interesting at 10-1 if you're looking for a price. And I think could go gate to wire. Just won the Fort Lauderdale, the Grade 2 Fort Lauderdale at Gulfstream on December 30th on a 2-win streak. He did just beat King Max by a head, and I think King Max as a late presser type could step forward here too as well. But look at main event because George Weaver's winning at a 30% clip right now, and Javier Castellano's aboard. So if you want a long shot to take a stand against those 2 really good horses in Warm Heart and Integration. So I'm going to
agree.
My pick.
Sorry, I agree. I like both those horses, especially King Max. I didn't think he got on track until too late last time, but I like the way he finished. And at 12-1 on the morning line, he's a horse that I will look at for vertical exotics.
All right, so to recap our picks, like I said, we've got Integration at 3-1 for James and Darin, and then Nick, you've got the morning line favorite in Warm Heart, and I'm going to go main event, take a shot at 10-1 with that early pace setter, hopefully going gate to wire. Well, before we move on to the main event, the Pegasus World Cup, we're going to take a short break and then we'll dig right into that $3 million race.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires and use stable alerts to never miss a bet.
All right, welcome back. We're going to talk the Pegasus World Cup, a 1 1/8 mile event for 4-year-olds and up. It's the main event on the 13 race card at Gulfstream. And James, I know you like the Preakness winner, National Treasure, the 9-5 morning line favorite in this race. So tell me why you feel confident with that price as well in National Treasure.
I think National Treasure just took a big step forward last fall, training into the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He showed up with a really monster effort that afternoon, running a no second to Cody's Wish. And I love the speed he showed as well, going that 2-turn mile at Santa Anita. I think he's sharp. I think he's going to keep moving forward. This is a colt that did have back class, winning the Preakness, like you said, but it took him. He still wasn't a finished product in my mind. He had missed some training time last spring. After that race, he didn't necessarily carry his form forward, but I do think that he has really come to hand since the fall for his connections. And looking at the pace scenario in this race, I mean, National Treasure comes off a wire-to-wire win on a wet track at Aqueduct, and I definitely expect him to show speed, but I'm just not sure how quick that rival is. And I know National Treasure, if he breaks running, he's got a shot perhaps to even beat him to lead. If he doesn't beat him to lead, he's going to be sitting a nice, easy trip up beside a Hoist the Flag and early going. And I just look for a favorable trip on the front end. So, we saw this. I'm not saying he's going to be the next White-Abario, but we saw White-Abario take a huge step forward off of that impressive performance in the Whitney last summer. I think National Treasure has that same kind of potential following his sterling effort in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, and I like his chances in the Pegasus World Cup.
So you're saying National Treasure and Hoist the Gold, you think we'll get into that speed duel, but you expect National Treasure to get out in front?
I give him a good chance. I just think it's the pace scenario, it favors him as well, where there's just not a lot of speed entered in this race. There's really only one other rival that I think will potentially be running with him. First Mission has some speed as well, but I expect a favorable trip on the front end for National Treasure.
Well, Darin, I'll go in order of morning line odds here with you and the 12-1 choice and Hoist the Gold. I know you have something to say about that pace setup and who's going to get the early lead. So tell me why you like Hoist the Gold.
I'm just not a believer that National Treasure is that fast of a racehorse. Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile aside, you have to remember in that particular race, Zozos was expected to be the controlling speed that day, and he didn't break well at all. It just wasn't his day that day. And National Treasure got what was actually a pretty easy lead, going 22-2 and 46 flat on a mile trip at Santa Anita is really not that fast, to be honest with you. Hoist the Gold did go very quick fractions on a speedy track, going a 1-turn mile here in the Cigar Mile, where he opened up and clearly relished a sealed muddy racetrack where he ran the best race of his life. But this horse has now run the best race of his life in 2 of his last 3 starts. And on some of the speed figure scales, he's really run 3 consecutive races that indicate that he is in the absolute best form of his career. When you take a look at where he's been a length off of horses like Speedboat Beach a couple of starts back in the Phoenix, in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He was a length off of Speedboat Beach. You take a look back, this horse made the lead in the Met Mile. He's chased really strong fractions and been up. I'm not saying he's the quickest horse alive, but if John Velasquez wants the lead with Hoist the Gold, I 100% think he's quicker than National Treasure. And why wouldn't you want that trip when National Treasure is yet to show that he could sit off a horse and pass a horse in the stretch? His 2 wins in his career have come wire to wire. The Preakness Stakes win was over an extremely moderate pace. I know the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, he ran his eyeballs out. I concede that point. For this horse at 9-5 to run that race, 2 races in a row, for a horse that, I'll be honest, I just don't think is that good. I can't take him at 9-5, and I'll take the other speed in a race that seems to be rather devoid of speed and a horse that's rapidly developing now at age 5 and Hoist the Gold.
And no concerns with the stretch out after he's been racing the mile distance, the 7 furlong, 6 furlong distance.
I don't listen. If he drew post 12, would I pick him in this spot? No. But because he drew post 4, I think he could get over to the rail and get to the front quickly. And I think a mile and an eighth at Gulfstream plays shorter than it does at other racetracks because it's typically a pretty speedy track with a very short stretch.
All right, Nick, and I know you have an even longer shot here at 15-1. So tell me your pick in this race.
Yeah, I like everybody's got strong opinions in here. I like the 5 Trademark, and I think part of my rationale is that Trademark was roughly 12 times the price of First Mission last time out when he beat him really on the square in the Clark, and what ended up being a pretty strong race, all things considered. I think there's an argument to be made that Trademark is maybe a little bit better at Churchill than anywhere else, but he was able to overcome getting herded out a little bit here and still got it done, as of course our man Travis Stone finishes the call there. He could have called that. It was actually a lot larger margin than it looks, but I'm going to let him know that he should have called that photo. It's only a grade 1 race, right? All kidding aside, but I think Trademark's a horse that's actually always hinted at having some ability. He feels like he's going to get exactly the right trip to me. He's going to be a little bit off the pace. Gulfstream is a tough spot for horses that haven't been there quite as much, so you do always have a little bit of concern about that, but he feels like he's in the right kind of form. His work tab at Payson looks awfully good. I'll take him again at 15-1 or so. I feel like he'll be around that price. The pace conversation, with which I know both James and Darin brought up, is interesting because the three biggest closers in the race, not named Senor Buscador, drew the 1, 2, and 3. So they're gonna drop out coming out of the gate. And Hoist the Gold's trip to the rail on the front end should be relatively easy. I think that's probably something Darin's banking on. I also am of the opinion that, if National Treasure sees a horse in front of him early, he is just going to completely fold, right? He has had no courage whatsoever when he hasn't had the lead. And so far, he got beat by Cody's Wish, who was much the best, and he held off Blazing Sevens when he had the lead in big races. So I'm also of the opinion that he's wildly overrated. But it really boils down to how hard is Grand Aspen going to get ridden? How much is Skippy Longstocking going to get used from the outside? You're doing a lot of kind of wish casting with some other speed horses that you're hoping are forwardly placed in order to force this thing along a little bit. So to me, that kind of bolstered my confidence in Trademark, who I know has enough tactical speed to stay within range, and he's also going to be a good price.
His 2 most recent wins at the distance out of 103 Bristnet speed figure. Again, I think you make the point, yes, he does tend to do better at Churchill, but we'll see how the pace shakes out. I actually really like Skippy Longstocking, and I also think among the 4-year-olds, I'm leaning more First Mission than National Treasure, but I like Skippy Longstocking at 8-1, and the reason why I like Skippy Longstocking, first of all, Saffie Joseph, a 20% winner this meet, and does pretty well off a layoff of 46 to 90 days. We have 3 straight triple-digit Bristnet speed figures for Skippy Longstocking. He also has 3 wins from 7 starts at this distance, and he's won 3 times at Gulfstream. So I'm looking for I know a lot of us are looking for a longer price here. He's also second in prime power among the field. So I'm going to take a shot at 8-1. I know the outside post, it's a little bit of a concern for me on the outside post, but I think he still has a shot to come out here and pull off the upset. I tend to, with this horse, whenever I don't like him, he tends to lose. And when I do like him, he tends to win. I don't know. Maybe I just have a pulse on Skippy Longstocking. So I'm going to go with my gut here and think he has a shot. Well, to recap, we are all very in disagreement. We have James with the 9-5 choice National Treasure. And then we have Darin with Hoist the Gold at 12-1. We have Nick with Trademark at 15-1. And I'm going Skippy Longstocking at 8-1. And real quick, Darin, before we recap our picks, I guess I already did recap the picks, but tell us one more time about that promo in case someone's joining late. Tell us about the promo at Gulfstream this weekend at TwinSpires.
Sure. Yeah, we have that running winter money back. And if you're opted into that already from the previous weekends, you're good to go. If you haven't opted in yet, be sure to do so. We're going to feature the 6 races at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, races 8 through 13, including the 3 Pegasus World Cup events. All 6 of those races are going to be included in the winter money back, up to $10 back if your horse runs second or third. And even better than that is within minutes of the race being official. If your horse does run second or third, you're going to get that money back in your account. You could churn it, you could refire it and come back for more. So be sure to go to TwinSpires.com, opt in, and enjoy this great racing card with us at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, Ashley.
All right. And to show you that this is live, we were going to recap the picks after the money back offer. But real quickly, too, I know, Nick, you got to run. So just around the horn real fast, if you have one pick that you're really feeling good about on the undercard. James, I know you got a horse that you really like on the undercard.
Yeah, I'm going to tout number 11, Tumba Rumba in the Fred Hooper, like the way he's coming in the race for Brian Lynch.
And Nick, what about you?
I'm actually in the same race as James, which is the 11th. I'm on the far outside runner, the 12 Signator. So hopefully hook him up with James's Tumbarumba in the exacta. But shortening up in distance off a try in the Queens County last time out. A couple of races in a row at a mile and an eighth. He didn't have the cleanest of trips last time with a slow break from the gate. I think he's a real candidate to move forward, shortening up to the mile.
Darin, you got any hunches in the early part of the card?
Yeah, race number 7. So we'll try to get you some bankroll for the back 6 races. It's a $100,000 handicap. The 4 Dreams of Tomorrow had a wide post last time, was forced extremely wide when they lined up almost 7 across the track, and he had no choice but to take all the way back and really couldn't have run home much faster than he did with the move inside with Johnny Velasquez aboard. I'm looking for him to get a much better trip, 8-1 morning line. Dreams of Tomorrow in race 7, Ashley.
And real quick, I like in race 4, number 1, Beach Nut Trophy at a price, 12-1. A Safi Joseph runner, I think, has a shot to beat Riley Mott's 9-5. Morning line choice, fillies and mares, and a handicap in race 4. That's all the time we have for our Pegasus World Cup Day preview. Thanks for joining us. And again, head to TwinSpires to watch and wager on Gulfstream Park's Pegasus World Cup Day card on Saturday, and check out those promos as well, that winter money back offer. Be sure to opt in, and good luck this weekend.